The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and welcome to part 3 of the IndieCommerce video documentation on content types in Drupal 7. In this video, we'll be creating a new content type and then we'll create a node of that type. Now we recommend that you watch the first two parts of this series, content types. You can find that if you go to bookweb.org, e-commerce and ebooks in the top green menu bar, IndieCommerce, and then we have Training Video Center. You can see content types and overview and content types part 2. In this case, I'm going to create a content type called article to be used for press releases and other news stories. Now, one of the biggest reasons for creating a new content type is so that not all of your content is created as pages. If that were the case, you'd have a tough time separating out all of your newsletter articles or staff pics from the rest of your pages. By creating a new content type that is similar or even identical to a page, you can keep all of your newsletter articles separate and sortable from everything else. This is handy if you intend to create a lot of one specific type of content. So for instance, you could create a content type called Staff Pics 2015 and another for 2016. This would allow you to separate out staff pics by year. So to create a new content type, we go to Structure, Content Types, and Add Content Type. Since I'm creating a content type to be used for newsletter articles and press releases, I'm going to call this content type Article. So I just put Article. Under the description, I'm going to put newsletter article / press release. So anyone creating a node can see what this content type should be used for. For the title field label, I'm going to put headline. That'll be the first field that I'm asked for when I create the actual node. Under publishing options, I don't want these to be published automatically when they're created. That way, they can be written well ahead of time and only published or made available to the public when the time is right. Even if I added a menu link to my main menu leading to this particular node, the link itself would be invisible until the node was actually published. Under display settings, I don't want to automatically display the username and the date of creation. Instead, I'll handle that by creating a couple of new fields for the byline and the date line. And then under menu settings, I'm actually not sure where I'm going to put these, either in my main menu or in my secondary links. So I'll choose both of them, and both of them will be given to me as an option when I'm creating a node. I'm going to come down to the bottom and say Save Content Type. Now, if I go back to Content, Add Content, you can see I now have a new content type and I can create a node called an article. But if I create an article now, you can see that it's missing some key components. Namely, a book list tool. There's nowhere to add an ISBN down here, and there's also nowhere to upload a file if I want. So we'll need to add a few fields here. Now, I don't need to be able to upload a file to my articles, but it might be nice to have the option. And I'm sure that many of my articles will have a list of related titles, so I do want to be able to build a book list. So going back to Structure, Content Types, and Article, we're going to go to Manage Fields. We'll go to Article first, and then you can see from here, we're going to go to the Manage Fields tab. Now from here, this page is showing me all the fields that I will be asked for when I'm creating a node called an article. So the first thing I'm going to do here is pull the body up under the headline, and I'm going to save that. Since I want to add a tool for creating book lists, I'm going to use the Add Existing Field tool to create it. So I'll just select an existing field. In this case, what we're looking for is product reference field products books. I'll click on that, and that pulls it in here. In some cases, you have a choice of widgets, but in this case, there is no choice. So we'll click Save. Now, when we add a field, Drupal wants to know a little bit about it. So Drupal is going to ask me some questions. For this field, the label is books. That's appropriate. It's not a required field. I could easily write an article that does not have associated book titles. I'm going to leave the read more behavior as the default behavior. Under the help text, it's pretty obvious. It's a book list tool. I'm not going to bother putting anything in there. You can, of course, if you think someone on your staff needs a little help there. Under the number of values, we're going to put unlimited. This will offer me a place to put an ISBN, and it will offer a button below it that says add another title. So I can keep adding as long as it's unlimited. I'll always see the button that will allow me to keep adding titles to the list. The target products I'm going to leave unchecked because that's going to allow my search to pull up more items. And I'm going to leave everything else here as default. I'm going to save those settings. So now I have a book list. But I do want the book list to be below the body. So I'm going to pull it up a little bit like that. And I'm going to save that. Now I also want to add a new field. I'm going to add a new field. This is just going to be a text field, and this is going to be my byline. So I'm going to add it, and we'll call it the byline. And again, it's just a text field. That's all I need. And I'm going to save that. Now again, Drupal wants to know a few things about this field. It's telling me that the maximum length in characters is 255, and that's pretty good. I don't imagine I'll need anything longer than that, so I'm going to go ahead and save that field setting. And again, it's going to ask me, what do I want to call this? I'm going to call it byline. I'm going to make it required. If you're filling out an article, you do have to put that in. Again, the rest of this I'm going to leave as the default. The size of the text field, that is the visual size of the actual field, it's going to be about 60 pixels. That's going to be about that long or so. The default value I'm going to leave blank. Doesn't need to say anything when someone gets there. And the number of values, I'm going to leave that as 1. I'm assuming that there's only one. Oh, you know what? Well, we'll put 2. That way, in case 2 people contribute on an article, they can both put their names in. And then maximum length, 255 characters. Again, I think that's fine. I'm going to click Save Settings. So now I've added a few things to my new content type. I now have a headline, I have a body, I have a book list, I also have a byline. And let's add another new field. We'll call this one the date line. So again, this is just going to be a text field. And we'll click Save. And again, we run through the same sort of questions that Drupal wants to know about this new field. So we're going to keep it at 255 characters. That's plenty. We're going to call it the date line. Again, we're going to make it required. And again, down here at the bottom, all the same stuff. I'm not going to change the size of the text field. I'm not going to change the default value here. And in this case, there's only going to be one date. So I'm going to leave that as 1. And then we're going to say Save Settings. So now I have a headline, a body, a book list, I have my byline and my date line, but I don't want them arranged in that particular way. Now keep in mind, what we see here is not what your customer sees. That is handled under Manage Display, and we'll take a look at that a little bit later. But while I'm adding information to my article, or this content type, I do want it to be arranged mostly the way my customer should see it. So I'm going to pull the headline, the byline, the date line, then the body, then the book list, and we'll leave it like that, and we'll save it. So now let's go back momentarily. We'll go to Content, Add Content, and Article. So now when I get here, I can see it's asking me for a headline, It's asking me for a byline. I can put 2 of them in if I need to, if I have co-contributors, and it is asking for a date. And a little further down, we have elements that you'll be familiar with. Here's the body and the book list where I can add books. Oh, I did forget one other thing. So let's go back to structure, content types, and article. And what I forgot to do, I forgot to add another existing field, and that is for file types, to upload files. So again, under the existing field, I'm going to choose file, field files. And that's all I'm going to do. Again, there's no real options there, and I'm going to click Save. Now again, Drupal is going to walk me through. It wants to know a little bit about this field before it adds it. Files, I'm going to leave the label up there. It is not a required field. Allowed file extensions, by default it offers TXT, a text document, but I'm going to add the only other one that I would really probably use, which would be a PDF that I might upload. The rest of this I don't need to put anything in, although I don't want huge files to go up on here. So I'm going to keep this at 3 megabytes. I can enable the description field if I want to, but I haven't put anything in my description field, so I'm going to leave that out. And then files field setting, the number of values, 1 file per article, I'm going to leave it there. And then I'm going to come down here and click Save Settings. Now I have files as well, and again, I want to pull this up just below my book list. And then again, we'll save that. So let's try one more time. We'll go to Content, add Content and Article. Now I can see it's asking me for a headline, it's asking me for a byline and a date line and the body. Then I have my book list tool, my add another item, so I can add as many books as I want, and here's my file upload tool. So this looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and create a piece of content. So I have, of course, all of my content written, which I highly recommend. In this case, we're going to write an earth-shattering article. Byline, this is going to be, oops, I am the only one writing. This will be today's date. I can put the whole thing. I can say, whoops, today is Thursday, October 14th, 2015. Okay, and then again, I have my article already written. Copy that, drop my article right in there. And I even have a couple of ISBNs to drop into my book list. Now, just to reiterate, if you're using the book list tool, you want to drop in your ISBN, click your cursor outside of the field. That lets the little Ajax tool run and pulls that information right out of the database. And I'm going to add another item because I have another book to add. And here, so let's grab this. Add another ISBN. Click outside of the box, and I have 2. All right, now I'm going to come down to the bottom and I'm going to click Save. And here we have my article. However, this did not appear the way I wanted it to. I wanted my headline at the top, then my byline and my date line, and I also wanted my books to actually show up. So let's go find out why this is happening. We're going to go back to Structure, Content Types, and Article. And this time, we're not adding fields anymore. We're going to manage the display. When we go to Manage Display, we can see a couple of things. First of all, these are not in the order that I want them in. Now, this page doesn't show you the headline, which is the very first field on the top of an article. So it's sort of understood to be at the top here, headline. So I want everything else to fall below the headline. In this case, I want the byline, then the date line, then the body, then the list of books, and then any files that I've uploaded. So let's go down to the bottom. We'll save that. And now we'll go back to content, add content. Oops, let's go back and look at the content that we created. We have a page, first contact made. So now we're getting a little better. Now I have my headline and I have my byline underneath and the date line underneath that. But I don't really want these on separate lines. That doesn't really look good. I also don't want the word byline. I think I'm going to change that. So again, I'm going to go back to structure, content types, article, and I'm going to say manage fields in this case. I'm going to go back to my byline field, and I'm going to edit that. I don't want it to say byline. I just want it to say by. I'm going to save that. Same thing with my date line. I don't want it to say date line. It just needs to say date. And we'll save that. Now, I also don't want them to appear on separate lines. I want them to be in line with each other. So I'm going to go under Manage Display. And now we can see that for each field, there is a label. So in this case, the label for the byline is above the actual information. I want it in line. Same thing with the date line. I don't want it above. I want it in line. The body, the label is hidden. And the same thing for the books. It's a list of books. It doesn't need to have a label that says books, so I'm going to hide that label. And again, for files, well, we'll leave that label visible so customers and everyone can see that. Then we'll come down to the bottom and we'll click Save. So now let's go back to the content that we created. So I'm going to click Content, and it's right here at the top of my content page because it's my most recent piece of content. Now you can see I have my first contact made. There's my byline, there's my date line, and there's my article. But at the bottom, I still have my book list, which is just a couple of book titles, and that's it. They're not even clickable. So let's go one last time to Structure, Content Types, and Article. And in this case, we want to, again, manage the display. So here we can see that the book list is being shown, but all that's being shown is a label. It's just showing a label for each book. If I click here, though, I have a number of choices. So what I really want is the full information with all the metadata and the buy button. So now we'll go down to the bottom and save that. And now let's visit our page one last time. And I think this time we'll have what we're looking for. So here is my headline, my byline that says buy, date line that says date. Here's my actual article. And then at the very bottom, I have actual books that are related to the subject, and my customer can click on those and drop them into their shopping cart. And that is how a static node content type is created.